Welcome to ChildCare Conversations, the podcast where early childhood leaders like you get real-world strategies, honest talk, and a whole lot of support. Whether you're running one center or many, we're here to help you lead with confidence and clarity. This episode is brought to you by Center IQ. If you've ever added a child to a classroom, adjusted staffing, or made a quick schedule change, and then spent the next 2 weeks fixing the ripple effects, you're not alone. Most leaders make decisions and then see what happens. Center IQ's decision intelligence lets you see what happens before you decide. Start your free trial today at centeriq.io. Now, let's get into today's conversation, one we think you're really going to love.
Okay, so we all have had a licensing inspection or two or three that stick in our memories as either, oh my gosh, that was torture, or what an amazing licensing rep. Why can't they all be like this? And so we have brought one of those amazing people. So Ronnae Williams, also known to many people as the state lady, because she used to be that licensor coming into your program. She's here to share a little bit of wisdom and hopefully help you deal with your licensing reps in a way that gives you a little bit more freedom and support and less terror. Because I do know a couple people who are terrified when their licensing rep shows up.
It's just
So
the
welcome.
clipboard. They bring out the clipboard and all the staff go, it's a clipboard. So why don't you start by telling us a little bit about your background, how you ended up as the state lady.
Okay.
And because I know you didn't start and only go there. So
Hi, everybody. My name is Ronnae, and I'm a former licensing consultant for the state of Georgia. I got my bachelor's from Georgia Southern, which is in child and family development, and we actually had a lab school on campus. I was torn between being a child life specialist or just something with children. I wasn't sure which direction I was going, but I knew that I wanted to work with children, and I knew that I liked the classroom, but I just knew I didn't want to be there all day. Well, I graduated and I became a Georgia pre-K teacher. So I was in my classroom all day, but I still had that desire to do more. So I would help with after school program. I would answer the phones. I would do so many different things. And I eventually got promoted from within. So I went from Georgia pre-K teacher to assistant director. While I was the assistant director, I promise you, I had more state visits than I had all my years in a classroom combined. The state was in my building, no lie, at least once a month. The program that I was at, if you're familiar with Atlanta, it was just in an area that was very transient. It was near the highway. It was literally like one corner were $1 million homes and the other corner was like affordable housing. It was just and it was on the bus line, but the other half of the street didn't have the bus line. Like, it was just a crazy space. And so between the staff that we hired.
Okay, so I just have to say, Atlanta's just kind of crazy anyway, if you drive Atlanta.
Yes.
And I don't know what's up with all of the lawyer billboards. This is a totally side topic, but every other mile there is a billboard for an attorney to sue somebody for an accident. And I was like, but do I really want to drive here? So
it is very
no, I don't think that has anything to do with your licensing rep. But I got a question for you. When you got promoted from pre-K teacher to administrator, was it because you had this great early childhood degree, or did they give you some additional training to do that job?
It was a combination. So the degree helped, and I was enrolled in getting my master's. So the education did help. But I also remember when my classroom released with Georgia Pre-K, we were out by like 2:15, 2:30. Well, I was answering phones. I was in the front. Like, I was in the front in everybody's business, okay? Or I would be in my room, and my room just had so much going on. I was constantly changing my door, constantly going above and beyond with curriculum. So other teachers would come into my room for questions and support as well. So it was like I was kind of the unofficial helper, even though I wasn't paid to be anybody's boss or helper. And eventually the the role just kind of got stacked. And when the position became available for assistant director, my name was brought up. So yeah.
Awesome. That is great. I mean, it's good to hear how other folks get to those leadership roles. And it sounds like you were maybe intentionally or not intentionally positioning yourself to move up.
Yeah.
Where some folks, they could be an assistant director for decades because that's where they want to stay.
Yeah.
And they don't want to go
I
any
liked
further.
the classroom though. Like I realized I was a leader, but I liked being in a classroom. I think back in the day, if we had curriculum coordinator, like back in the day, that would have been my jam. That would have been my jam because you're not really writing people up, but you're more so documenting where their room may be a little deficient in lesson planning or materials or whatever. I'm a project leader. I am not the person who writes you up for like coming late. That was not if you were late, I did not care because I always knew I was going to ask you to stay later. I just felt so bad when I'm like, oh, I just got on her for being 10 minutes late, but she closed for me yesterday, but I get it. Miss Kathy probably had to get off at 2:00 on the dot, and it was a bad thing that Miss Barbara was coming in late. I get it. But I just always felt so bad getting on my team about time. And
Okay,
I
I just have
knew
to giggle. So I just have to giggle with your name choices. I don't know if those are real people,
they're
but
not because my old teachers follow me. They still exist.
well, here's
So I
why I'm
don't want to call
laughing.
any
So
of them out.
my mother's name is Barbara, and she calls me Kathy because that was the name I went by as a kid. And my mother's not late for nothing. Like, no way. Like,
But she would want to be off exactly at 2 p.m. if that is what
Yes.
you told her.
I was like, I just have to not that my mother listens to our podcast. I don't think she's listened to one in 330 episodes, but
My mom didn't listen to mine either.
I think it's kind of funny. So I just have to, sorry, that was again, totally not on topic. So hopefully those who are listening today are going, what are they talking about? Okay. So let's
it's
talk
totally
about what
okay.
we brought you here for, because we're 6 minutes in and we've talked about 6 minutes of a whole lot of everything but. So folks who are listening, directors, owners, they're listening and they're like, okay, it's somebody wanting to talk about the licensing people. Tell us, what's your secret? Like, how should folks think of their licensing reps?
You should honestly look at it as a person that is coming to help your school or your program or whatever we're calling it these days.
Yep.
It is a person that is coming in to help you. It is a fresh set of eyes and they're seeing things. And even when they question the things that they see, it's not personal. They want to understand what they're seeing. Childcare looks different as you move up the street. What is used as an enrichment tool may be broken trying to think of a good example, but what looks like one thing at one school, if you put it in another school, it may not look like the same thing, or it may not be used the same way. And so don't always be so defensive if someone's questioning you. They're really just trying to understand what they're looking at so that they can be objective while reviewing you. And I also say, look at the inspection for what it is. It is someone coming to your program looking for a rule violation. It's not they're looking for something wrong, right? If that's the attitude you want to have about it, that's a you problem. But they are looking for rule violations. It is not the praise time. It is not, if you get a praise, that is great. But your consultant is not looking to praise you when they come in. Again, if they get a chance to praise you, and most do, because that makes the visit more smooth. And it's honestly just a better mind frame to talk about the positive as well as the negative. But know that it is a review of possible rule violations, and that's what they're looking for.
So
Yep.
so those folks who stress out every time they pull in the driveway, what is a way to shift that mindset? I think you covered part of it, but what are some other things that they can do to be proactive? Because Carrie and I've met these directors, right? These owners who are like totally wigged out. Like I said, the clipboard comes out, they pull in the driveway. There's a lot of anxiety. What might be a really kind of a tip for them as far as that mindset shift, what they could do proactively to change that relationship with their licensing rep?
I think first things first, when we go to restaurants and we look at that health score, we are grateful that someone is checking on our food. We are grateful for those people. If you go somewhere and you see they got a 79 or 64, you're like, well, not eating there. We're not like, oh, they were really trying. They have the best French fries. No, they did not do what was needed to have a safe environment. Keep that energy inside of your program. When people come into your program, they're looking to see and ensure a place is safe for children. Unfortunately, like with a food bug, in most cases, you get over it. If something happens to a child, a lot of times people never get over it, whether it's a scratch or a bump or a broken bone. Those are things that will carry with that family for forever. So I think a lot of it is adjusting our mindset. We understand that people are trying hard every day. Childcare, everyone says it's harder now. I think it's always been hard. I think we just have new problems. And I
Yeah.
think we now have a space to vent. And now, because we hear so many other people's problems, we just feel like we have a ton of problems when half of the problems that we hear about aren't our problems, they're other people's problems. Another conversation, right? But I think we all can hear other people's problems and we feel overwhelmed by it. Childcare has always been hard. We've always had one issue or the other. And I think when we adjust our mindset to remember, I mean, nothing against the men, but this is a women's based industry.
Yep.
We always make it. We always make it. We always overcome it. We always fight through it. And I think we have to remember that new rules, those help us to protect children. If a new rule came along, something happened, and that's why they made the new rule. If you find that you're struggling in a certain area, think of it as, I really need to start training more in that area. I think it really is a mindset shift in regards to childcare, and just what overwhelms us about licensing is part of the business. 2 times out the year, someone is coming to my program to look at it, and they're looking for things that are wrong. If we carry that mindset all year long and we're constantly preparing, not the week before when we think state's coming, right? When the spirit leads us to believe that state is coming, if we constantly work on compliance, work on compliance, work on compliance just as heavily as we work on enrollment and work on marketing, if we kept those 3 things a priority, right? Then the visit wouldn't be so stressful because you've been through the process of making compliance something that you're thinking about. But a lot of people don't think about compliance until they get cited or someone gets hurt or something like that happens.
Yeah, you don't want to be the reason that, for what I call one of the ways that standards change, is because somebody did a dumb thing. You don't want to be the reason that there's a new dumb thing rule
Right.
in licensing, because somebody in the state of Texas put something spicy in a kid's mouth. And so now it's in minimum standards that you cannot use food as a form of punishment.
Discipline. Yes. It is
Because somebody did
insane.
a dumb thing. And now we all have to learn about this, because the rest of us are going, who is putting jalapenos in children's mouths? And the answer is, I don't know, but somebody did it, and now we have it in standards.
And the
I
thing
mean, it's
is,
how we end up with all those stickers on a ladder, and how we end up with,
yes,
notices on your coffee cup that your coffee cup could be hot. Like, I don't want, like, if I'm buying cold coffee, I want it iced coffee. Otherwise, I do want it hot. But so, okay, I just have to ask, because I'm sure you've got some. What are some of the silliest things you've ever heard a state have as a requirement in licensing or minimum standards or compliance, whatever term they use? Give me some funnies other than don't put a
You know-
jalapeno in a kid's mouth.
I feel like being in the industry for so long, and even though I'm not a consultant anymore, I'm still very connected to the agency. And through social media, I've met so many other state ladies. A lot of these rules come from something. You know what I mean? So it's
That's
like,
why I want to know what your
you
best. I
giggle.
want to know your funnies. I need
I
them.
think because something happened, right? Like, it's one of those things where you're like, somebody did something crazy. Someone did something thoughtless. Someone did something just wrong. And
Okay.
now we have to have a rule about it.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like those weird ones, because you know how there's always weird legislation, like just in everything. I just want to know what your favorite weird ones are.
Think are weird. To me, I feel like they're all valid. I honestly do. I think sometimes we get a little carried away with paper, like in the children's records, and I'm not going to say the staff files. I feel like every drop of information that you put for someone that you hire, it is necessary. I honestly feel like how we put 10 years of work history, I want 10 years of your address. Okay? Like I feel like with staff, we could honestly do more, but I'm not going to make y'all hate me by adding more work to the thing, but I do feel like paperwork for staff should be more detailed because people are crazy and they move to new states to start new lives, and we don't always get a full history of where they come from. You know what I mean? And people
Yeah.
act like they can't halfway remember where they worked. Their boss doesn't work there anymore, so you can't even put like who your supervisor was. You can't get a reference check on them because that person doesn't work there anymore. Like staff files is just a whole nother thing, because I do think a lot of crazy people slip through the cracks because staff, now I will say this, I don't think it's funny, but this is one rule that perturbs me,
Mhm.
is a lot of staff people get terminated for doing bad stuff, right? But the center does not charge them criminally.
Yeah. I actually was an
Therefore, they're not unsat.
yeah,
That bothers me.
I was hired as an expert witness in a case like that where one program terminated somebody for doing some sketchy stuff but did not make the appropriate referral to CPS.
Right.
And so then that person got hired at another center, and that center did the checking to see, did you work at this place? Did not ask the, are they eligible for rehire question.
Higher. Mhm.
And then that person went on to do some more sketchy stuff, but they shouldn't have been able to because the first center should have made a CPS referral. And they did not. And
Did
I'm
not.
like, you can't hold the center that hired me to account because those people did not file the
Didn't
CPS case.
Right.
They did everything they were supposed to. There's no legal requirement that you ask the rehire question. They
But even the rehire question doesn't tell you, because you can't ask necessarily why unless they sign off on the why, right?
Yep.
And it could just be that they're not eligible for rehire because they were habitually late versus they
Yep.
were inappropriate with a child. But
Yep.
like same with even theft. Like I know people who, will fire somebody because they were stealing things, but won't file a criminal charge.
Right.
And then they let this person, again, same kind of thing. And even if it's just stealing food, and this is a
that happens a
previous
lot.
podcast episode that was just kind of a funny story about how somebody got caught stealing food. But, if those things happen, yes, I know we like people, but we still need to do right by whoever might employ them in the future.
Because
Exactly.
there should be a natural consequence. And if the natural consequence is that you did something sketchy with a kid, then you don't get to work with kids no more. You can go work at, Target. You can go
Yeah.
work at, slinging burgers somewhere. But you cannot work in childcare if you did something sketchy with a child.
That's fair.
And you have to make those referrals. It drives me bananas.
It drives me bananas.
That would happen.
All right,
That's not
so-
a funny role to me, but that is one that grinds my gears. That
Yeah.
one takes me out every time because I'm like, especially when you see someone's, like when I look at it, I'm like, gosh, they've been in 5 centers this year. What happened? You know what I
Why?
mean? Like,
Mhm.
I wish we could do more with paperwork. That is one where I just feel like we need more rules. But I get it. It's a headache, but I feel like it would save so much aggravation in the long run if we had a better understanding of who we're hiring. But I get it. It's so hard to halfway hire. You're like, oh, Lord, they passed the background check and they want to come every day. They got reliable transportation. Sign them up. But I do wish we could do more to protect not just the children, but the businesses. Because when you get a bad employee, that disrupts everything.
Absolutely.
So let's talk real quick about this. I told you I was going to ask you one question. Now, here's my question. In your experience, when you have worked with programs or you've worked with a chain of programs or something, what is one thing related to compliance that, and I'm going to use that term, that folks will often respond to emotionally instead of pausing and actually looking at the data.
Believes that they know the rules. And I can honestly say a lot of times people don't know the rules. They know what happened in a situation that contained or involved a part of a rule, right? So people are like, oh, I know all about ratios, but they're doing it based on what happened a previous time that they were cited. And that's their interpretation of the rule. When some of these rules have so many different components to the rule. They go from A to K, right? And they might only know A. And so when they get cited for that same thing again, they're like, but I didn't do that. Because last time y'all told me, yeah, but the rule, if you get down to LMNOP, you'll see that there are other parts of that rules. And a lot of people, especially people that have been in childcare for forever, they feel like they don't even need to read the rule book anymore because they know it. And it's crazy. Like, even as a consultant, I printed my rule book. I was a tree knocker outer. I don't think we can say the other word anymore. I took some trees out, and I also had a shortcut of it on my desktop. To this day, I have a shortcut. I pay for paper now, so I don't print it out. I have a shortcut to the rule book on my desktop and on my phone. And so I can always get to the rules because no one can memorize the rule book. It's revising, and your interpretation as you experience things can change. Enough mulch, and now putting a number, now that my slide is this tall, I need 6 inches, not enough. Once you get, I mean, do you get what I'm saying? Like, once you get a better grasp of the rules, it makes more sense, where before you were just like, oh, she said I had enough mulch. And you keep looking at this playground that you look at every day, and you don't realize that every time it rains, you get a little less mulch. It's getting packed down, it's getting blown away, it's getting put in children's pockets. And you keep looking at it, and you're like, last time she said this was enough, you didn't learn that you needed 6 inches. You learned she told you that was enough.
Yep.
And I think what happens is people are like, my state lady told me something different the last time she was here. I'm not negating that does happen sometimes, but a lot of times that's not what happened. That scenario that you learned has changed.
Or it's been
Absolutely.
clarified. Like I think the number thing is a great example of enough versus 6 inches, because again, they may have measured, you didn't know she measured.
Right. I have a tool in my clipboard. I have tons of tools in my clipboard. Right. And I had this stick that could like break ground, and I would put it's marked, and I could tell when I hit 3, when I hit 6, when I hit 9 with mulch. It's a quick action. A lot of people don't see it because I'm walking the whole playground. Most providers watch me from afar. Right. But then they swat a bug, or their phone rings, or a teacher needs a bathroom break. They don't see me measure it. But I did.
Yeah. I mean, my first licensing rep carried around a ball. And she was like, I don't always, I said, why do you have a ball? Why are you bouncing a ball around my playground? And she said, so if you don't have enough fall surface, the ball will bounce.
I'll bounce.
And if I drop the ball and it stays down, then you have enough and I don't have to measure. And so that's what she would just drop a ball all around the playground. So that then became a tool that I used as an owner, and I had my teachers.
Wait. That's a tip. That's a tip. So all of you directors and owners who do playground checklists, make sure that with your playground checklist, you have a tennis ball. And
but
go back and rewind.
Depends on your surface. It depends on your surface.
Yeah,
okay,
it won't work
that's valid.
I don't think it works on the rubberized, the unitary rubberized surface. I think it will bounce even if that's in good shape. But if you're using pea gravel, bark mulch, or sand, it will work. Yeah. So only if you've got the loose fill kinds. I don't know if it works with the shredded rubber.
Okay, so we need somebody
I've never tried a tennis ball. I had my stick, and I carried that stick everywhere I went. I still have that stick.
I mean, I think it's a good tool, but it's for the person who's doing the everyday check, you've
Mhm.
got to have somebody every day walking through and making sure that, a snake hasn't shed its skin or people
Cat
haven't
hasn't used you as
left
a litter box.
paraphernalia.
Well, I was thinking all the critters that use it as a litter box.
Oh my gosh. I just feel like the earth or the world, both the earth and the world, everything's going through something right now. And the amount of animals, like the shedding of the skin, the different rodents that people are finding on their playgrounds, but just like these new things are growing. Like I know I saw a very unique weed one day, and even the owner was like, I don't know, we just keep getting those. You know what I mean? Like it's just weird. On top of people littering, and then, of course, the wind blows it into your property. And then, depending on where your program is, it's not good litter. So it's just,
Or
it's a
people who
lot.
literally will have a party in your parking lot and then toss stuff out of the parking lot into the playground because it's fenced in. Yeah. Okay. So
We've all heard plenty over the years, obviously.
Yes. I have one center that I work with, and they're next to like I guess it is a gas station, but it has like one pump, but it's more so a convenience store. And they have so much litter. They even tried to modify their playground by making their fence taller and to give the children more privacy. The trash still makes it onto their playground. I don't know if people are playing basketball on the other side, I'm not sure, but they still have a trash problem on their playground. It's crazy.
it is. But that is part of the reason why part of your opening checklist every day should have somebody assigned to check the playground.
The playground.
And absolutely, and that's a minimum. You might even need somebody going out there twice a day, depending on kind of the location. And, do you have excessive critters because you are backed up to some woods, or you get the whole other level because you're next to a gas station, convenience store, or public community. Well, thank you so much. Anything else?
Hold on,
you
let me
want
add
to
one more
talk
thing
about?
to the playground, though. Let's add one more thing to the playground. The playground is everybody's job. I know that we're very big on this like morning checklist and afternoon checklist, but the people that are using the playground, because they're supposed to be walking around, it is not going to hurt your neck to look up and down. It is not going to take away from your day to look down and see what's on the ground and possibly prevent one of your children from stepping on an ant mound, one of your children from picking up the remains of an animal. It will not hurt you to look up and down. We cannot just have this attitude of that's not my job, and this mindset of I'm only paid to do this. In childcare, keeping children safe is everybody's job, and
That's
not
what
just
you're paid
keeping
for.
children safe. Yes, but you're keeping yourself safe because you'd be the one to step on the ant pile, not the children. It'd be your luck that you step on the nest. You know what I mean? And so I really like whenever I do trainings, whenever I do like staff trainings, I let people know the playground is everyone's job.
Yep.
Everyone should be using their necks, looking up and down and all around on the playground to make sure that there are no hazards that are accessible to them or the children in care. It's not, oh, in the morning. I know in Georgia, you can get an ant mound after one rain. I don't
Yeah.
know what type of ants we have here, but they can create a mound in 30 seconds. All they need is a little bit of rain, and they turn into teenage mutant ninja ants, and they can build the biggest things in the world. And all they need is 30 seconds.
I mean, absolutely. I would 100% sign off on that as a former owner, without a doubt. Yes, it's everybody's job. And if you told me something wasn't your job, I'd be like, well, then none of this is, honey.
Sure.
And do you want to finish out the week or just today? Because that was not an attitude that I could handle.
No.
But I know it's out there. And when we're having difficulty hiring, like we were a year ago, and I think people still think it's as hard as it was a year ago. It's not as hard as it was a year ago, guys. Just you're having a little PTSD. It's better now. It really is. And that's not just me saying it because I'm seeing it from the side of the road. It's me saying it, talking to hundreds, if not thousands of directors and owners every year. It is easier today than it was a year ago. The great resignation is over. And we've got plenty of people who are tired of working a gig job and they want something with some consistency. They want something where they get some feeling that they've accomplished something at the end of the day.
Yes.
And working in childcare can give them that. Who
It
wants
checks
to
the
be an Uber
boxes.
driver when they could be playing with Play-Doh? Some people, we don't want that. The other
Right.
people, come on into our industry. We got
Absolutely.
Play-Doh to spare. Come on, guys, let's go.
No, absolutely.
Awesome.
Childcare is such a fulfilling role. Like, I think people forget that when they get mad. But as soon as they go to another job and they realize that job is not perfect and they're going to make them mad, you might as well work where your heart resides and just know that someone's going to make you mad or you're going to have a bad day. But you're going to have a bad day anywhere you go. You're going to have a bad day no matter how much money you make, right? Because it's always that debate about that quarter. If I go up the street and I get 2 quarters more, it is just going to be so magical. Stay where you were and know that every day you're putting seeds into the most beautiful garden we'll ever experience, a person. You know what I mean? You are building up a person to be a great adult one day, a great human one day, versus every 5 minutes you get a new customer that's never going to learn your name and you're never going to matter. Even if you found a coupon for them, they're never going to remember you. But people remember their teachers. People remember the hugs Miss Mary gave them. People remember their foundation. And even if the child doesn't necessarily remember, they still feel you in their heart.
Yep. And those parents remember you.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to make us wrap this up because otherwise we're going to be in a second episode. So with that, go reach out, go find all of the contact information for Ronnae. I'm going to get this right eventually.
Ronnie is my
lady.
dad. Ronnae is me.
And
Ronnie and
Ronnae
Ronnae.
is my best friend. So that's what's going on there. We're trying to get 3 people into one name.
I can't do it. But all of her contact information, how you can reach her, is in our show notes. If you've got questions for her, reach out. Click the Ask a Question on your podcast listening app, and we would love to connect. And with that, Carrie, what do people need to do?
Well, they need to share this show with somebody else who needs to know, and come back and listen to us in a few days. So if you're not subscribed or following on your podcast player of choice, go in and hit that button. It won't cost you a dime, and it'll make it so that you have something fun and interesting to listen to on your way into work. Talk to you soon.
Thanks for tuning in. We love bringing you real talk and fresh insight from the world of early childhood education. Be sure to follow us on social media to stay connected and catch all of the latest episodes. And if you're planning a conference, training, or special event, Kate and Carrie would love to speak to your audience. You can learn more about their keynote sessions and workshops at kateandcarrie.com. If you learned something today, share the show and leave us a review below. We'll see you next time on ChildCare Conversations.